Welcome to today's episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. My name is Adam Brsan.
And I'm Chris Smith.
If you've yet to do so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And if you love this podcast, don't forget to share it with a friend or colleague. We greatly appreciate your help and support.
So I was looking at YouTube recently and I realized we hadn't recorded anything in a month, but I kind of knew that was going to happen. But I knew that wasn't going to be the end of the world because I knew by the time we came back, we would have so much stuff to talk about. We were going to need probably a full 45 minutes to unpack all the shenanigans that have taken place in the Medicare sphere, ethos, environment, universe since the last time that we talked. Nick,
what was happening the last time we talked? So much has happened in the month of July and August. Like, I don't even know where to start.
Well, we spent July and June talking about all the shit that went wrong in final expense, or went wrong, but like went sideways quickly. That we spent time with Adam, spent time with you, got over 600 views because of all the disruptions over there.
Yeah.
And Medicare is like, that wasn't enough. Here, hold my beer. I got one for you.
We're just going to terminate thousands of agents in one go. Like the most popular prescription drug plan last year is just going to terminate everybody.
But the more I do this, the more I see things and I'm like, that's not gonna, like, I'm gonna sell it, I'm gonna do it, but that's not going to last. This is, it's like we watch these the rates with a certain fraternal that's now on as earned, essentially itself. I'm like, this is not gonna last.
No. Although I wrote one today. It's still a great product. I don't mind it being as earned. It's a really good product. Yeah, but it's not gonna be longer. But it's going away. Like I'm like, right while the writing's good, because it was my only option to get the deal done. If I couldn't have done it with them, it wasn't going to happen. And I'll take it as earned. So
well, 40-cent PDP plans where the government's decided to overregulate itself to the point of oblivion. That wasn't going to last either, was it?
No, the 40-cent PDP plans. I mean, and I was telling people when I first saw that these existed, when these first came out, and they were commissionable. I was telling people, listen, we're going to put you on this plan for this year, but I guarantee you next year, this is not going to be what this is. So enjoy it while it's here. It's not lasting for more than a year. And it didn't. I know SilverScript came out with their $7 plan 3 years ago now. And the first year they paid commission on it, and the second year they stopped paying commission on it because at $7, it doesn't make them any money. And they're prescription drug plans barely pay commission. I don't know how much these companies are really saving by cutting out the brokers. I sort of feel like this is a trial balloon for them to try and see if they can cut out the brokers. Otherwise, here's a fun fact. I don't know well, but I have spoken to somebody who is an internal sales agent at WellCare. And they terminated us. It's not no use pussyfooting around this. We can use their name. I think we're not going to say anything bad about them. I don't think. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll have to put in bleeps. But I know somebody who works there as a sales agent, as an internal sales agent. And she's like, since this news came out, half the sales agents internally have threatened to quit because we are overwhelmed with inbound phone calls and the systems can't keep up with it. And it's a lot of work and they haven't offered us any kind of increase in pay. Yeah. And our workload just doubled overnight. And so this is going to go badly for WellCare. This is not going to go well for them. And this is just the PDP. I don't know anybody who's losing a lot of sleep over losing their prescription drug plan commissions.
Well, if you live in the Facebook bubble, that's all that you see. And I'm like, at some point, I'm like, this is obnoxious. Who is really that dependent? Maybe I don't realize this, but how much do you make in monthly commission renewal on that stuff?
Well, so on a PDP in monthly commission, you're making $100 a year, right? $50 on renewal. $50 on renewal.
Okay.
A year,
right?
A year.
$50 per year.
Per year. So let's say you've got a book of business of 1,500 people.
Mhm.
And, all of them are PDPs. So
Okay.
you're making $75,000 a year off of that?
Okay. But you
Like,
need 1,500 40-cent PDP plans for this to have now been a problem. Is that
this
if
is what
that's
I'm
you,
saying.
if that's you, you gotta stay tuned for our diversification conversation because you have diversification problems, I would say.
But I don't know anybody who's got 1,500 WellCare plans, right? Like, or like, I'm sure there are people who have 1,500 PDP plans. I'm sure there are, like, this is a big deal for the very large call center agencies with LOA agents, right? Like, who do legitimately have thousands of PDP clients. But
Mhm.
the average workaday agent doesn't have thousands of clients full stop, let alone thousands of PDP clients.
That's our third conversation for today. How many numbers.
Right. Like the average Medicare agent who's working full time manages and maintains a book of business that is somewhere between 300 and 800 people.
Okay.
Like it is very rare for an agent to get up and over that $800 number, that 800 number. And kind of, if you don't make it to 300, you usually don't stick around in Medicare for very long.
Mhm.
But somewhere between 800 and 300 is where most people are. And it's usually a pretty decent mix of advantage plans to supplement plans. Many agents are leaning dramatically more heavily on the supplement side, but not all of them. Sorry, on the advantage side, but not all of them. But even people who do a lot of supplement plans are rarely 100% supplement plans. So let's say it's like 75% supplement plans, and all of them are getting this WellCare PDP. And you're at that high end of 800.
Mhm.
Let's see, a little bit of quick math.
It's still not gonna
Times
be it.
times 50 is $30,000. I mean, it's enough money that I would maybe lose sleep over losing $30,000 of renewal commissions
A year.
a year,
Yeah, but
right?
also they
But
didn't
also,
euthanize the people. You can go back and service these individuals, assuming they will talk to you again, right?
yeah, you're losing $2,500 a month, right? You're losing $2,500 a month.
Been there before.
And that's just like, that's not no money. Like, but like, this is replaceable, right? This is,
It's also a
this is
fixable
a
problem.
replaceable amount of income.
Yeah, it's a fixable problem, and I think people forget how to manage problems. Like, and I mean, we all face our fair share of problems the older we get and the more we work in the business. And I'll take every fixable problem you can give me. If I can
Yeah.
see a solution, I know how to do it. Might take a week, a month, a year, 2 years to get back to it. Give me a fixable problem any day of the week. Give me something that I have zero control over. It's in the hands of somebody else. So there's nothing I can do about it. That's a real problem that you can't do anything about.
Right. The one thing that I will say is, if you're watching this, and I know we get sometimes 600 people watching this, um, the one thing I would ask everybody who's watching this, who is going to start not writing prescription drug plans and referring these plans out, I would strongly recommend, ask, plead, beg that you do not send people to Medicare.gov, that you do not tell people to call 1-800-Medicare. Have them call WellCare. Tell them to call WellCare and directly enroll through WellCare. Any non-commissionable plan, United Healthcare. Tell them to call United Healthcare. If the best plan for them is a non-commissionable United Healthcare plan, have them call United Healthcare. These companies do not have the infrastructure to handle those kinds of phone calls, and what they're trying to do is trial balloon this out to see if people will just self-enroll through the Medicare.gov website.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the end game is. So don't play their game. Don't send people to Medicare.gov. Don't send people to 1-800-Medicare. Have them call the company like they should, and enroll through an agent at the company. You're not going to make commission on it either way. What do you care?
Exactly.
Protect your job.
And you know what's interesting is that in the midst of this sky is falling version of Medicare chaos, because there's always something every year that these people on social media are full on panicked about. Um, they were panicked for the longest time about overrides potentially changing, but luckily that hasn't changed. And I find it interesting that every so often there's a troll online on one Facebook group or another, or some forum that hasn't collapsed yet, that's like, well, the FMOs don't deserve this kind of money. Now that they won that stay in court, now they're taking money away from us. Like, for all the issues that we have with FMOs and private equity and people that have got their checks and, essentially pulled out emotionally from the business, there is a point and a purpose to the infrastructure above that street level agent, and they do need to make money, right?
Yeah, and also how I don't know how they're taking money away from street level agents, because I'm sorry, if you are a street level agent, you were never getting that money. That money, if it doesn't go to the FMO, is staying with the insurance carrier. Let's like all get on the same side. Like all of the people, like all of the people who are on the insurance producing side should be working together, and that includes like FMOs. FMOs are insurance producers, like they're marketers, but you need a marketer. The insurance companies, I mean, we don't work for them, right? We're independent contractors. We're not employees of the insurance companies. We should not be playing into their hands. We should be playing into the hands of our clients and doing the things that are in the best interest of our clients. We work for our clients. We don't work for the insurance companies.
Yeah. I think we spend too much time bickering instead of aligning and realizing that everybody has very similar values. And when it all comes down to it, everybody just wants to make good money, not have to go to an office 9 to 5 every day a week, generally speaking, and be able to spend time with their family until they die. Like, this is really not that confrontational. But I'll get a little confrontational because I would suspect we have a slightly difference of opinions when it gets down to the politics of the world. But the Inflation Reduction Act has really effed up a lot of the Medicare side of things, including the PDP plans. Nick, I was looking at a very popular plan from Aetna. No harm in saying it. They'll never watch it. That was very competitive in Baltimore, in an area that does not have a lot of Medicare plans in the first place, and very challenging network situations that are fun to learn, but realistic. It's not Philadelphia. There aren't 15 different versions of one UHC plan. There's very few. Aetna, for example, in the process of pulling back in certain markets, took their Smart Fit plan off the market completely. Like, it's already out of Sunfire. You can't even imagine it. And maybe is crosswalking people into a plan that has a monthly premium, which is kind of normal in Maryland. That isn't crazy compared to the rest of the country. But with all these other plan changes in the MAPD space, what do you kind of see that looking like over the next couple of weeks as we prepare for AEP?
So prescription drug deductibles across the board on MAPDs is just going to be a thing. And that's a thing that most clients are not used to. And that is a thing that we have to prepare our clients for, because that's going to change how things work for them in a somewhat significant way. It looks like give back plans are fewer and further between. It looks like zero premium plans are going to be less common, even in markets where they were extremely common.
Or less
like they're going to be less common,
or less quality of a plan, potentially.
It's going to be rolling back a little bit more to what Medicare Advantage plans were like 2018, 2017. This is a lot like what that landscape looked like.
Health partner plans back in the day. That was normal before I really understood the depths of Medicare.
So those types of things are going to be changing, but the reality is these are across the board changes, and these are things that are going to, I'm not even going to say be bad for consumers as much as they are going to be different in a slightly uncomfortable way for consumers, because the trade-off is now they have a maximum out of pocket of $2,000 for their prescriptions. And for a lot of consumers, that's actually going to be a really demonstrably good thing. There are a lot of consumers out there who have been paying 2, 3, 4 times that in their prescriptions. And so and have been like and have not been able to easily afford it. Like I have dozens of clients who make just a little bit too much to qualify for the state pharmaceutical assistance plan or the low income subsidy plans. And so they don't get any discounts on their prescriptions. But they also, can't really afford, $300 a month for the medications that they have to take. And so they start doing weird things like, well, do I actually have to take Eliquis? Maybe I can take warfarin. And warfarin didn't really work for me as well, but I can afford warfarin, and it's better to take warfarin than it is to take nothing. And, or do I have to go to Canada and buy the generic version of Eliquis, which is not something that I would ever actually recommend to anybody to do because that's illegal, but is a thing that you could yourself legally do.
Work out better than the one that I'd get myself. Yeah,
there's all sorts of like weird stuff.
Morally messed up. It's just, I guess if you push this issue across the table to get fixed, other stuff falls off the table in the process of you trying to fix the issue.
And this is the real problem, right? So like, and I don't know if NABIB is the solution. But somebody, for the sake of consumers, but also for the sake of insurance producers, because insurance producers are first and foremost consumer advocates, right? Like we are at the end of the day, the front line of who is interacting with the consumers and making sure the consumers are well taken care of if we're doing our jobs, right? And I know that governmental agencies and regulatory agencies see us as largely evil, but most people that are in this business are not. Like the people that work in Medicare really care a lot about their clients.
Probably too much in some cases.
Genuinely
do.
Like people do
the things they did, and I'm like, did they write any business though? No, it's just a good person that want to do something for another person.
Like people go way above and beyond. And somebody at the table who's making the regulatory decisions needs to actually have an understanding of how this industry works from a boots on the ground level. And without that, there is going to be a continuing series of unintended consequences that are going to create spirals of problems that were never meant to happen. That were thought to be like a fix to a different problem that was not really a problem. So like the Inflation Reduction Act thing, I think is largely a good thing, but it did create a whole series of unintended consequences. Other things like the CMS final rule, reinstating the 48-hour rule. The 48-hour rule on scope of appointments mostly harms consumers. Mostly means that consumers don't have the ability to work with people the way that they want to. It has forced more and more people to do Medicare over the phone, which is not a way that most seniors want to do to enroll in their Medicare. The harder you make it to do face-to-face sales and the more loopholes that you provide to the call centers, the more you encourage bad actors and overseas call centers and all sorts of different things. And the unintended consequences and the knock-on effects of a lot of this is pushing things in a way that's consumer unfriendly. Lock-in periods on their own are consumer unfriendly. People's health changes in the middle of the year, and they need the ability to adjust their health care based on how things change. It is not their fault if a doctor drops out of the network mid-year, or if they get diagnosed with a health condition that has a tremendously expensive prescription drug and they need to change their prescription drug plan. And there's no remedy for that built into the system right now. It is just too bad you're screwed for the next 6 months.
We'll just look at healthcare as a whole, which is not my strong suit in conversation, but you're not far from Delaware County, Pennsylvania, where hospitals are literally going bankrupt. Like you're slowly becoming a single to two hospital county. And this is a very populated county that you live near. Let's look at the other side of the border, Maryland. I need to go to the hospital. We're talking 25 minutes to basic level care, out of the state for anything significant in some cases. Like there's a lot of things wrong with healthcare in general. But that's a conversation I don't have a lot of knowledge to discuss, just a broad statement. I think also CMS, we have to recognize as a political body. The people that work there are oftentimes politically appointed. The rules are dictated by whoever controls the political parties at the time. I mean, maybe things change election-wise and CMS changes election-wise. Like a lot of what we've dealt with the last several years is all very political based, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Although I will say, like the moves, the things that the direction things have been moving is spanning administrations at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the direction things are moving is the wheels were put in motion in the prior administration at the beginning of the prior administration. And are continuing on through this current administration. And it's really just the logical outgrowth of what had already been happening. The way politicians treat Medicare is more or less the same across party lines.
It's a football though. It's a talking point more than it is. What does this actually do? Like I think if you took 10 Congress people out when they actually went back to work next month, they wouldn't have a damn idea what Medicare or Medicare Advantage or Medicare Supplement or PDP or any of that crap was. They just like to put it in ads.
Yeah, no, and it's not reasonable to expect that they would, but it is reasonable to expect that they would be talking to people who do.
Yeah, that's your job. Right? Like you're not going to know everything, but you should have people in your office or people you've interviewed that can give you the basic information so you know what to vote on or where to place people at. Like, let's get a little bit more political before we circle back. The Supreme Court throwing out Chevron basically was a direct shot at the administrative state because, I mean, we could disagree, and that's why we have good content. The administrative state has had a lot of push into the daily operations of what should be elected officials, right?
Yeah.
Or wrong?
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how deep into that rabbit hole that we want to dive down because that's a long conversation.
That's a big. We can get some lawyers on to discuss the death of Chevron. That might be an interesting conversation.
Because again, like large unintended consequences, though, also, right? Like, and probably good ultimately, probably ultimate good, maybe, but like large unintended consequences. Like there's going to be knock-on effects that nobody is seeing. Like, I mean, there's a very real possibility that because of Chevron, it might turn out that CMS doesn't actually have the authority to regulate Medicare. Like, that is a very real potential outcome.
Take AHIP again.
Right. Like, I mean, that's a very real potential outcome, though.
Yeah.
Like,
then who regulates Medicare? And
Congress? I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah. I mean, the administrative state existed in some senses to administrate the government, which has become probably larger than a bunch of old guys in Philadelphia thought it should be. But it's just like the Inflation Reduction Act. You push stuff off the table to fix the problem and stuff falls off the table.
Yeah.
Downstream effects.
Yeah. It is important that people who know what they're talking about get a seat at the table because Medicare is too important of a program. And it's I've been doing this for a long time. I've been working with Medicare almost every day of my life for almost 10 years now, right? It's a lot of hours. Like I'm well past the 10,000 hour mark on just dealing with Medicare and how it works and the ins and outs. But I brought on a new agent recently who, and I've told this story before. Maybe I've told this story on here before. I don't know. Forgive me if I have. But I brought on a new agent recently who has a lot of insurance experience, who's had a really long insurance experience career, but has not ever done Medicare before. And he ran a PNC agency. He for a number of years before he sold it, and so he has a lot of experience with commercial property and casualty insurance, homeowners insurance. He worked for a time for a large bank in their investments division and was Series 7 licensed and had FINRA licenses. And he's done a lot of things over his time. And he's kind of cruising into the end of his career and he wants to do Medicare and build up his renewal base because he's never really done any, like he doesn't really have any large renewal base. And he's excited about like being able to do something that he feels really good about. And it's important to him. And he likes Medicare a lot. And he said to me the other day, he looked at me and he said, Nick, Medicare is the single most complicated insurance product that I've ever had to work with.
Wow.
It is more complicated than putting together a homeowner's policy. It is more complicated than putting together a commercial lending property. I am having to learn more than I had to learn to get FINRA licensed. Because there are just so many ways that things could go wrong. And he's like, I'm talking to people, and like getting through AHIP and getting certified and up and running has not been a big deal. But then I run into somebody who's like, well, I'm turning 65 and I'm on my employer insurance, and they're offering me and I'm planning on retiring at the end of the year, and they're offering me a retirement Medicare Advantage plan, but also my husband is on this insurance plan, and if I take the retirement insurance plan, I'm going to change his coverage. So should I just like take Cobra, or should I go on to a separate Medicare plan that's just for myself, and then maybe try and find an ACA plan for him? And then I don't know what kind of subsidy he gets, and he has insurance that's offered to him through his work, so I'm not even sure if he qualifies for a subsidy. But if he does, his insurance through his work is like $1,000 a month, and I think an ACA plan would actually be better. And this agent looked at me and he was like, there are so many moving pieces to this conversation. I didn't even know where to start with this woman.
Yeah.
And he's like, you never deal with that kind of thing. Like everything else is just very straightforward. It is either a good idea or it's not.
Yeah.
And with Medicare, there's all of these if-then statements that you have to deal with. And you could be very cynical, and you could do this job very badly, and you could cause harm, and very easily be like, yeah, just sign up for a Medicare Advantage plan. Let the chips fall where they may. Your husband will probably get a subsidy. Get him on ACA. Like, right. Like you could do that.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea, right? Like it's not ethical, but like people do that. But we need people who understand how the whole system works to have some sort of a seat at the table and some sort of voice, so that things get done in a way that makes sense and protects both the producers who are acting in good faith and doesn't handcuff them, and protects the consumers. And I don't know how that's going to work out, because the only way that I see that happening is it's going to cost the insurers money, and then what do they drop out of the Medicare program? That's not good either. So
Yeah.
I don't know. This is why they don't pay me to make these type of decisions.
Challenging. It's challenging. I made a couple notes here to kind of walk through our next 10 or 15 minutes, maybe whatever we have left here. You want to talk diversification to survive these type of changes in the industry? Do you want to get really boring and talk levels of Medicaid? Do you want to talk realistic expectations on how much you should write in AEP if you're actually building your business, or if you're just joking around? Which one of those seemed like the most interesting way to wrap up today?
So let's talk about diversification for today's thing. I think AEP production should be its own whole video, and I think if we tag it on to the end of this, nobody will see it.
Okay, so let's talk diversification. I believed it. I practice it. I was interested. I was watching a FFL video, because I think some of the stuff Sean Mike says is actually educational, in-depth, experience-based, large number observational ways. Like people might love or hate him, but some of the stuff he says is worth a conversation and the ear time when you're stuck in traffic for 1 hour and 20 minutes driving back from the vet. He's talking about IUL, but more importantly, he was talking about diversification, selling multiple products, and how it's almost stupid to think all I do is a one thing. So diversification in our sphere, we haven't made 6, 7, 8-figure integrity deals like he has, means understanding final expense, a little bit of term, Medicare supplement. And I think some of our viewing audience are those agents that are on the fence about adding Medicare, especially with these disruptions, what to do with final expense with all their disruptions. Like, just speak to the normal $120,000 a year AP final expense agent, the average Medicare producer, about the importance of bringing those two houses together in diversification.
So one, if you're on the fence about whether or not you should get into Medicare because of all of the disruption that's happening in the industry right now, this is the best time to get into Medicare. Periods of disruption are periods of opportunity. And if you jump in and take advantage of the disruption, you have the ability to build a foundation for yourself that will be sustaining and long lasting. The last time there was this level of disruption was, I think, 2008, 2007, when they did the last big overhaul of Medicare. Which is when a whole bunch of people got out of the Medicare industry and went into the final expense industry. But the people who stuck around in the Medicare industry are all multimillionaires now. They mostly own very large insurance companies, like Integrity. They are in good shape. This was a good time to stick to your guns and ride the wave and deal with the turbulence and build a really strong foundation for your business. As far as diversification goes, my belief has always been that you should never specialize in a product type or even just a single product. The idea that there's riches and niches is very true, but family benefit life's final expense product is not a niche. It is a product within a niche. Final expense insurance is not a niche. It is a product line within a niche.
Mm-hmm.
When you are working with the niche, you are looking at the client that you are serving, and what type of person is your ideal prospect. And so if you are a final expense agent, your niche is actually people who are between the ages of 55 and 75, maybe 80, but 55 and 75, who are making $30,000 a year or less. That's your niche. That's the niche of final expense. It is not small, simplified issue whole life. Our camera angles keep adjusting.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's all right. So that's what the niche of a final expense agent is. Within that niche, there are multiple products that serve those people really well. You do not have to only offer somebody who is between 55 and 75 and is making less than $30,000 a year. You don't have to only offer them simplified issue whole life. There are other things that would make a lot of sense for them. Medicare would be one of them. Most of these people who are making that much money, who are in that age range, if they are under 65, they're probably on disability. If they're over 65, they're on Medicare. There's a lot of them that are going to be over 65 or will be turning 65 fairly soon. Medicare makes a lot of sense to market to these people. Specifically dual eligible plans, plans that have large subsidies for people who are receiving the federal extra help program. But also other things that make sense for them would be hospital indemnity plans, which are low cost and protect them from massive out-of-pocket expenses. Other things would be cancer protection programs. Specified health cancer programs can protect them from hitting their maximum out-of-pocket multiple times because they get diagnosed with cancer and have a 20% copay. It can protect them from getting diagnosed with cancer and needing to take a life-saving medication that Medicare does not approve yet because it's still experimental and you have to pay for that out of pocket, and whoops, it's $20,000 a month. There's these plans can help with these sorts of things.
And I think it's smart the way you described the niche is not final expense. It's not Medicare. It's not family benefit. Phone interviews are boring. Come on. It's the senior market in general. And I think so many agents are stuck in survival mode. They never make it into thrive mode, or when they're in thrive mode, they get too comfortable. They don't diversify. And I basically said on the Friday call, which is now called Dynamic with Adam or whatever cool.
Yeah, I saw that. You've done a rebranding.
Yeah, for Friday.
No, I liked it. I was just surprised.
Yeah. And I will do something with him today on this brand too. Ideally, it just plant your feet with final expense and spread your wings with Medicare. Like, for God's sake, if you got this figured out, why aren't you doing all the things that human that you're sitting in front of needs help with, if you intend to be good at what you do and service them correctly? because I see just so many situations where people are so poorly served because no one has ever been in their home with a good working knowledge of both sides of the fence to be able to help them.
You know what every single person in that niche needs that just frankly they're not getting is
Mhm.
help with their dental. Like, I will tell you, if you bring up dental with 100% of your final expense clients, just mention it. 7 times out of 10, you're going to get somebody going on a 20-minute rant about how hard it is to get their teeth taken care of. And you can either choose to help them with that or not. You can, standalone dental plans are a thing that exist. Medicare Advantage plans with decent dental coverage are a thing that exist, although they're existing less and less. See the beginning part of the video. But it is a thing that you can help them with, and it's the thing that they want help with. Like uniformly, when you're looking at a client niche, it becomes one of those things where you're like, okay, so where do I start? Like, what are the things that this person needs? What are the things this person cares about? How do I start presenting things that are important to this particular person and what all of these groups of people look like? Listen, I'm not the person that came up with this. This is not new to me. I was taught this back when I was working for a captive insurance agency that sold supplemental insurance, not Medicare supplements specifically, but supplemental health insurance. They encouraged me to find various niches, and they recommended things like talk to hairdressers. That's a niche. What are things that hairdressers need? Well, hairdressers are on their feet all day. They tend to have problems with disability later in life. They get into a lot of accidents, so you can market towards those things. Auto mechanics, similarly, there's all sorts of things in that range. And it's a thing that is an important way to start thinking about your client base. I seem to have lost Chris.
Yeah, just a second. So the entire afternoon is starting to descend back into the chaos that the rest of the day has been. I think the moral of the story is Adam is a great editor and will edit the issues as necessary in the last 10 minutes. But the moral of the story is comment. Like, if any of this is connected with any of you guys today, if any of this has said something to you that connected with you, comment. We love the likes. We love the shares. We love your subscriptions. We don't have to pay to watch this. Subscribing, but just leave a comment. Like, if something about this said something to you, the algorithm really appreciates it, and so do we. We talked about the sky's falling, but guess what? It isn't. Go to work. We talked about the for love of God, do it. And we talked about the importance of understanding that politics is going to exist, but there are still people that need us to go out there and help them. Nick, I appreciate you getting on with me today. We've got folks calling for help from homes because that's what we do. And if your upline doesn't, call Nick or call me and we'll do it for them.
Talk to you soon, guys. Bye.
And this concludes another episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, share with a friend or colleague. And if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, please leave those too. Any input is greatly appreciated. Thank you.